but he was so far long ago that I couldn't get anything on basically his childhood. So I did some research on what it would be like to be a child in the 17th century. Thomas Macy was born in 1608 in Wiltshire County, England, the town of Chilmark. Wiltshire Country was a major center of commercial weaving. In the 17th century, kids had to build their own toys from what they found either in nature or from what adults threw away. Different kinds of marbles and jacks were played using bones and pebbles and stones. Children used strong sticks and stuck them into rotten apples or potatoes and flung them as far as their little arms could take them. The other toys usually played inside were spinning tops and whirligigs. Rocking horses as well as dollhouses were also made in the 17th century. The children usually used boards to slide down grassy slopes, like a sled, except not on snow. More detailed dolls that went in the dollhouses belonged to rich people, rich adults, and were only showpieces. Gold dolls were commonly made at home with scraps of cloth. Mothers encouraged doll dressmaking as a hobby. Children played race and tag games. These games could easily be stopped and started when adults said. Life was hard and childhood passed quickly. Children in the 17th century had little time for toys. Young adult life of Thomas Macy. Thomas Macy has been listed on various documents as a merchant, a clother, and a weaver. In his late teens and early 20s, Macy arrived in America by boat from England in about 1635 and settled in Newbury, Massachusetts. In 1640, he was granted land in Salisbury, Massachusetts, 5 miles up the Merrimack River. In 1643, at the age of 35, Thomas Macy married Sarah Hopkite, but I'm basically Sarah Macy, so. 35 was really old to be getting married back then because people usually only lived about 40 to 50 years at that time. Thomas Macy was disgusted with how strict Puritans were. He started to search for a place to build a new community. During that period of time, he made friends with some Quakers, which was strictly forbidden by the Puritans. The famous poet John Greenleaf Whittier wrote a poem called Good Man Macy, which was about Thomas Macy befriending a Quaker even though it was forbidden. Macy frequently held positions of honor and trust. He was smart and hardworking. He was a merchant, a planter, a farmer, a judge, and a preacher. He wanted to make his own life without being under the strict rule of the Puritans, and he had the courage to do something about it and break away. Okay. 3 historic events. The Macys were one of the first families on Nantucket Island. In fall of 1659, the Macy family, along with a few neighbors and friends, sailed around Cape Cod to the west end of Nantucket. They were the first white men on the island. The Native Americans were called Wampagons. Luckily, the Wampagons were friendly and helped the new family survive the winter. In 1608 to 1609, John Smith returned to Jamestown and helped the first white settlement. 40 acres of land were cleared, a well was dug, 20 cabins were built, and a fort was built along the water. This goes into my story because this is the kind of stuff that Thomas Macy would be doing. The Salem witch trials began in spring of 1692. Young girls in Salem, Massachusetts said they were using witchcraft. Instead of helping these young girls, they were killed. That is also part of my story because Thomas Macy was settled in Massachusetts during that time period.